Wow, this free agency has been pretty damn wild. Mainly me, I thought this was going to be a very quiet free agency. The talent in this free agency class isn't as high end as it was last free agency class and how it is going to be in next free agency class. So I thought it would be a bit more of a boring free agency for that reason. I also thought that players wouldn't really be changing teams like this because of the short amount of time before the next upcoming season. They only got a month. But here we are in this wild ass free agency class that has exceeded a lot of mine and a lot of other people's expectations, and I'm here to recap the first 2 days of it. So the first free agency signing we heard of was Dragic. He came back to the Heat on a 2-year, $37 million contract with a team option for the second year. And this makes perfect sense for the Heat because they're a team that wants to compete now, and they also want to save cap space for the 2021 offseason at the same time. This 2-year deal with the team option allows the Heat to do both things. Number two, the second bit of news I heard was Wesley Matthews signing with the Lakers on a 1-year, $3.6 million deal. Also, I'm only going to be going through like the bigger, more impactful free agency signings. You might not think Wesley Matthews fits into that category, but I guess me being a Laker fan and having bias for the Lakers puts him in that category. But he's just going to be a 3-and-D wing player for the Lakers, kind of replacing what Danny Green brought for the Lakers. Hopefully he shoots a bit more consistently. The next player is De'Aaron Fox, and this is an extension. This was the first rookie player from the 2017 draft class to get a max extension, and it's 5 years, $163 million. Now that is a lot of money. I'm not saying De'Aaron Fox isn't a great player with great potential, but what is that? That's a bit more than $30 million per year, and I don't really think De'Aaron Fox has proven that he's worth that contract right now. And I think this isn't a contract that it ascends every year, as in the annual salary gets higher every year. So I think that's a bit too much money paid for De'Aaron Fox, but at the same time, Sacramento is a lower market team, and they're going to be desperate to retain any young ascending talent that they do find in the draft. Any homegrown talent with the chance of becoming a star, all-star, or superstar player, they're going to want to pay as much money as they can to retain that player. And they felt the need to give him $163 million over 5 years, because that's the type of money you pay to somebody who is a top 15 player in the NBA. Hopefully he can reach that mark sometime in the future. The next signing was Jordan Clarkson, coming back to the Jazz on a 4-year, $52 million contract. I think this is like exactly the same contract he got from the Lakers that one off season, like 4 years, 50-something million. This is a solid deal for a bench scorer, a sixth man. Jordan Clarkson really proved to be one of the best scorers off the bench this year, especially when he went to the Jazz after being traded from the Cavaliers, and especially in the bubble. The Jazz had really no other choice but to keep him because they don't really have much bench scoring outside of JC. Now, this is the first signing in which a player is changing teams, and this one was very unexpected to me. Danilo Gallinari going to the Hawks on a 3-year, $61 million contract. So yeah, this one is very, very unexpected. I thought he was going to go to a contender because he said he wanted to go to a contender, and the only way for him to do that would probably be through a sign-in trade because most of these contenders are capped out. But he's going to the Hawks, which was one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference, one of the worst teams in the NBA last year. But I mean, there's 61 million reasons why to do so. If a team's going to give you that bag and you're not even like an all-star caliber player and you're getting $61 million over 3 years, you got to take that deal. On the Hawks end of it, it's kind of weird to me because Danilo Gallinari has been playing power forward for the past, 3 or 4 years, because that's the direction of the NBA. Players that come into the league as small forwards are gradually moving to the power forward position, especially Gallinari because he's not a good perimeter defender. But the Hawks right now have a lot of power forwards. They have John Collins, who they drafted 3 years ago. They have Onyeka Okongwu, who they just drafted. And now they're bringing in Danilo Gallinari, and they're paying him $20 million per year, basically. So they're not bringing him in just to be a bench player, I don't think. So are they going to move him back to small forward when the team already has holes on defense, especially having Trae Young in your backcourt? John Collins isn't a great defender. they're going to move Danilo Gallinari back to small forward, where there will be another perimeter defending liability. I don't know. We're going to have to see what Atlanta does there, or maybe this signals that they're going to trade, what's his name? Oh my God, I was about to say Josh Smith. They're going to trade John Collins away because they don't want to pay him in restricted free agency. And then maybe they're going to try to start Gallinari at power forward, but then you still have Okongwu, but Okongwu can definitely play center in the league. He's probably going to move to that position full time, but you have Clint Capella there, who you just traded for. So it's going to be interesting to see what Atlanta does for their big man positions starting and coming off the bench this year. The next news was Rodney Hood signing with the Blazers on a 2-year, $21 million contract. There's a team option on the second year. I thought Rodney Hood would kind of want to get a more of a guaranteed contract over a longer amount of time, like at least 2 years, more along the lines of 3 years, given his injury history, but this is what he went with. Maybe he's just trying to prove his worth. This is a great signing for the Blazers, who need some bench scoring help, and bringing back Rodney Hood, who was mainly your bench scorer, solves that weakness kind of. Malik Beasley signed a 4-year, $60 million contract to come back to the Timberwolves. Malik Beasley is a 6'5" shooting guard, like exactly like Anthony Edwards, so I don't really see them starting both of them at the same time, especially when the Timberwolves need defense. I think they're going to want to start Josh Okogie at small forward. So they're going to be paying Malik Beasley $15 million a year to really be a great bench scorer. That's what it looks like. Now, this was the big bombshell drop of the day at the moment when we heard of it. Montrezl Harrell going to the Lakers on a 2-year, $19 million contract with a team option for the second year. Now, this was shocking, not only because of the team that he's going to, but for the small contract that it is. Myself included, a lot of people expected Montrezl, to get like a 4-year, $70 million contract, or a 4-year, like $65 million contract, because he's the reigning 6th man of the year. Like a lot of bad teams that might be desperate for a center might want to throw Montrezl Harrell a bag, but apparently his market was not what we expected it to be, and he got a 2-year, $19 million contract with a team option for the second. So the Lakers lost Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard said he was going to come back, but then I guess the Lakers found out they could get Montrezl Harrell. But the Lakers still have JaVale McGee, so I think Montrezl Harrell will still be that 6th man off the bench just for like offensive purposes, and you still have JaVale McGee to start off games, playing 10 minutes or 12 minutes a game, and then the rest is either AD at center or Montrezl at center. Montrezl Harrell might close out some games if the Lakers need offense, but I don't think this is a high opportunity cost type of signing for the Lakers, because this is literally their mid-level exception. So I will take Montrezl Harrell. We're getting the reigning 6th man, and we got Dennis Schroeder, who I think should have won 6th man of the year. So dope offseason for the Lakers. I didn't think our roster would really change that much or really add this much high-end talent. The next signing is Davis Bertans returning to the Wizards on a 5-year, $80 million contract. I didn't think he'd get this much money. What is that? I think that's $16 million per year over 5 years. I didn't think Bertans was going to get that much money, but apparently he did. I guess that's the value of shooting. We'll see that in this signing and the next signing I talk about. 5 years, $80 million. I thought he'd get more of like a 3-year, like $50 million type of contract. Shooting pays off, that's what it kind of seems like, because not only did he get a bag, but Joe Harris also got a bag from the Nets, 4 years, $75 million. The Nets made it apparent that this was their emphasis in free agency. They wanted to bring back Joe Harris, and they did just that, and they locked him up for 4 years. The next signing is Jeremy Grant going to the Pistons on a 3-year, $60 million contract. Because I like the Nuggets, I really like the Nuggets team, I really thought it was apparent for them to keep Jeremy Grant. So at first I was like, why the hell would they not try to bring him back? But then I saw the contract and it was $20 million per year, so maybe that's why Denver didn't want to bring him back. But Denver matched it. They said, or a report came out that Denver matched the 3-year, $60 million that Detroit offered him, but Jeremy Grant just chose that he wanted to go to Detroit. So it's apparent that Jeremy Grant wants to have a higher usage role to really prove his value in the NBA. Speaking of Detroit, they let Christian Wood walk. They let him walk on to Houston because Houston gave him a 3-year, $41 million contract. Or no, they didn't give him that contract. It was a sign and trade because Houston's already capped out. So I don't know why Detroit is willingly giving up Christian Wood. First of all, because Christian Wood was a fucking dog when he was starting for Detroit. And second of all, I think Detroit signed like 2 centers when you combine their salaries worth more than Christian Wood's salary that they offered him. So they decided to bring 2 like backup centers. I think they signed Mason Plumlee. They signed Mason Plumlee and Jahlil Okafor. They're bringing in those 2 centers and they decided to get rid of Christian Wood. The point is they're bringing in 2 backup centers when they could have just kept Christian Wood, who's young and ascending, who really only just played his first like meaningful time of games this year. And he was a dog for you guys, and you're just going to willingly ship him out to the Houston Rockets for, I don't even know what they're getting back. I'll have to look into that a bit more. But I just really didn't understand that sign and trade from Detroit's side of it. Oh, on the Rockets side, they get a center that they desperately needed, and he's young and has a lot of promise for you. So there you go. Great sign and trade for the Rockets. The next bit of news is not even a free agency signing. It's just some like rumor that John Wall wants out of Washington. I didn't expect this at all going into free agency. I think we were hearing a lot of how John Wall was willing and looking forward to playing with Bradley Beal and this young Wizards team and getting them back into the playoffs. But now John Wall is looking to get traded out of Washington. So that's kind of a bummer for me, especially for that video that I made saying the Washington Wizards should be feared or something like that. But we heard some rumors about like a Russell Westbrook for John Wall swap, so maybe that can kind of keep my video valid. Other than that, it's going to be hard to trade John Wall's contract because it is so hefty, and he's coming off of 3 years of not playing meaningful basketball. So we'll see. We'll keep monitoring that situation. The next news is Marcus Morris returning to the Clippers on a 4-year, $64 million contract. I didn't think Marcus Morris would get that much money, $16 million per year for Marcus Morris. In my opinion, that's a bit much. But virtually, the Clippers just chose Marcus Morris over Montrezl Harrell. Or just Montrezl Harrell just really didn't... I don't really know why Montrezl Harrell left, because I feel like the Clippers would have given him more money because they have his bird rights. I don't know. That's going to be something we also have to monitor. The next news is kind of surprising as well. Fred VanVleet returning to Toronto on a 4-year, $85 million contract. A lot of people thought Fred VanVleet was going to get a big bag from another team, especially a team that was kind of worse and was in desperate need of a point guard, like the New York Knicks. They were kind of linked to getting Fred VanVleet. I don't really know if that was a real rumor or just one that the NBA fandom made up. And also the Detroit Pistons, before they drafted Killian Hayes, Toronto paid out the money to Fred VanVleet. He's getting, I think, $21 million per year over 4 years. He bet on himself and it paid off. I don't really know if this will allow the Raptors to be big time free agency suitors in 2021 because they're paying Siakam, they're paying Fred. I think they're going to want to if it means that the Raptors can bring in Giannis, they'll let OG Anunoby walk in restricted free agency. We'll walk that path when we have to. The next bit of news is Chris Dunn going to Atlanta on a 2-year, $10 million contract. Pretty good signing for Atlanta. They get a point guard that can defend, so not all of their minutes at point guard revolves around point guards that can play defense. Good signing for Atlanta. Chicago's defense is really going to hurt now that they lost Chris Dunn, one of the 2 players that was carrying them on defense last year. Some more big news: Gordon Hayward going to the Hornets on a 4-year, $120 million contract. What? Alright, I did not see that coming. I think we all thought Gordon Hayward would get about $18 million annually per year. So like a 4-year, 18 times 4, what's that, $72 million? No one thought he would go into the hundreds. No one thought that. But he got $30 million per year from Charlotte, from Michael Jordan and Mitch Kupchak. So that's probably insane. I think now we're all respecting Gordon Hayward and Gordon Hayward's agent for having him decline that player option. But that is insane. So Danny Ainge has lost out on Kyrie Irving for nothing, and he's lost out on Gordon Hayward for absolutely nothing. Oh, I think Al Horford, unless that was a sign and trade, I can't remember. So Danny Ainge has been taking some L's over the past 2 years. Is Danny Ainge becoming a bit overrated? I don't know. I'm not going to jump the gun like that. I mean, it kind of became apparent that Gordon Hayward was kind of ostracized out of Boston, not from his teammates, but just because of the situation. Breaking his leg in his first year, having to recover the entire second year. He finally caught a groove in his third year where he was averaging 18 points very efficiently. He was a good playmaker for the team, and then he got injured in the playoffs. So he was just not having a stroke of luck in Boston. Maybe he just needed to get out of Boston, but I mean, there's 120 million reasons why to get out of Boston. If a team is giving you that much money, you have to take that as a player of the caliber of Gordon Hayward. I hope he can get back to Utah Jazz Gordon Hayward, because I mean, just as a basketball fan, you want to see players get back to their old selves before injury. That could really help LaMelo Ball's development, not having that much pressure on him. But this is a bad contract. I don't know why MJ and Mitch Kupchak decided to give a player who's a bit injury riddled, not even like currently all-star caliber, who's like 28 or 29 years old. I don't know why they would give him $30 million per year over 4 years. We'll have to see how that pans out. The next news is Avery Bradley going to the Miami Heat on a 2-year, $11.6 million contract. I'm pretty sure this has a player option on the second year. I mean, not a player option, a team option for the second year, because we know the Heat want cap space for 2021. Great signing for the Heat. I think this is kind of another player that fits the mold of Miami Heat culture, somebody that competes, and especially competes and is very talented on the defensive end. Avery Bradley was a dog for us and Lakers Nation. Avery Bradley was a dog for us in Lakers Nation last year, so I kind of wanted to see him back in the purple and gold, but this is a very good fit for Avery Bradley and a very good fit on the Miami Heat's end. The next news is Rajon Rondo going to the Hawks on a 2-year, $15 million per year. It was obvious that Rondo was out of the purple and gold with Dennis Schroeder coming in. But the Hawks, they got 3 point guards now and 2 very solid backup point guards. So I don't really know how they're going to get minutes for all of them, because you assume Trae Young is going to play 36 minutes a night. So that leaves 12 minutes for backup point guard play between 2 very good to great backup point guards. Unless they're going to play a 2 point guard lineup where Rondo and Trae Young are on the same court, or Rondo and Dunn, or Trae Young and Dunn. I don't really know how they're going to manage that point guard position, but we'll see how they allocate those minutes. The next news is Carmelo Anthony returning to the Blazers, 1-year minimum contract. Carmelo was pretty good for the Blazers last year. I think he averaged like 15 points per game. He was a bit more efficient than usual, a bit more efficient than OKC Carmelo Anthony and Houston Rocket Carmelo Anthony. 15 points per game on 43% from the field. And what did he shoot from 3? He shot 38.5% from 3. So you're getting that on a minimum contract. That's a definite dub for the Blazers. I like that, and it's really good to see Carmelo Anthony is going to keep on contributing to competing teams in the latter stages of his career. The next news is Serge Ibaka. He's going to the Clippers on a 2-year, $19 million contract. I don't really know if that is an upgrade over Montrezl Harrell, just because Montrezl Harrell isn't much on the defensive end, and Serge Ibaka is one of the better defensive bigs in our league, even with his age. And Serge Ibaka provides immensely more floor spacing than Montrezl Harrell could. So low-key, maybe this is an upgrade over Montrezl Harrell, even though Montrezl Harrell is a bit more like flashy, provides a lot more of shot creation in terms of getting to the rim on his own. But I mean, for like the little things that Ibaka provides and the more boring things that Ibaka provides, it low-key might be a dub for the Clippers, and they don't really have to pay as much money to Montrez, or they don't have to pay a lot of money for getting Serge Ibaka. I think this is like a veteran's minimum or a veteran's mid-level exception. So dub for the Clippers. They recovered nicely after losing Montrez. And then the final news is the Donovan Mitchell extension from Utah. He's getting a 5-year, $195 million extension. I think he proved his worth in the bubble, most definitely. He put up a valiant performance in that 7-game series against the Nuggets. I mean, he did blow a 3-1 lead, but he was balling. You can't really blame him for the loss. This is money that you pay to somebody you think can be a top 7 player in the league at some point, because this is almost $40 million per year. And I think Donovan Mitchell believes he can be that, and low-key I believe he can be that type of a player as well.